survival mode is the first mode we're in. I've just talked about it. And when you go into survival mode is immediate thinking. I've got to just think about the next day, the next week, how can I get through the next hour, how are we going to keep the business running in our cases, how are we going to look after our children at the same time, how we're going to, all of this stuff, it's quite immediate in the thinking. Then you've got the reset phase. Now, even though survival was painful, and I will go through each of these in a moment, even though survival was painful, you don't have to think of the long-term future when you're in survival mode, because you're surviving. You're just getting through the day, getting through the week. You're not thinking about, the next 3 years strategic vision, or you're not thinking about, what are you going to be doing with your career, for argument's sake, and so on and so on and so on. Succession planning, all that type of stuff. It kind of halts all of that, which actually is a relief to some people. Because there's a lot of people that constantly worry about, the future and how's it going to pan out and what do I need to do and all this type of stuff. So when you go into survival mode, although that's painful in itself because there's a big shift and you've got to survive now rather than just go and do what you do, you also don't have to think about the future. Whereas moving into reset, you do have to think about the future because now you're resetting for the future. I think it was Kev Williams, I don't know if Kev's on this morning, but Kev Williams on one of the sessions last week, I was on about New Year's resolutions like in July, and he called them New World resolutions, which I thought was fantastic. I actually did a little video clip on it. New World resolutions, and this is the time when you're resetting to reset those goals, reset those plans. There's lots of businesses doing that. No doubt you guys have had to do some similar kind of work in order to go, okay, well, 2020, this is not what we were expecting. We were expecting to do this, and now we might have to rejig things and do stuff because that might now be different. So there's a big, massive reset zone going on at the moment for people, which is great because you're coming out of the pain of survival, but you're also going into now having to think about the future again. Now, for some people that'll be exciting, but for others it'll scare the living daylights out of them. So it's a case of just bearing that in mind as well. And of course, if we can get this right, we can excel for the future. We can get back to peak performance. We can get back to being the best version of ourselves that we can be. We can achieve those results that we want to achieve. I'm sure Pete this afternoon, the later session this morning, will talk to us about, I've mentioned, I don't want to steal your thunder, Pete, but I've mentioned the golf club scenario a couple of times where, the golf club's going, how can we get the money back we lost, rather than going, actually, why are we just aiming to look for what we've lost? Why aren't we aiming to get more? Why aren't we aiming to achieve here? So when we're starting to reset, the danger in reset is aiming for what you've lost. And we don't want to aim for what we've lost. We want to aim for what we want. Yeah, because it's kind of 6 foot, 100 foot thinking again, okay, which I'll mention when we get onto it. So just think about those 3 phases. And I've got businesses, I've got clients that are in all of those different phases. I've got one client that's over here because when lockdown happened, their business tripled in size. They got lots of contracts from the NHS at that point, NHS England, that I'm not allowed to talk about, and it tripled their business. They had to triple their people, triple their business. They had to do a reset. They didn't have to go into survival. They had to go into a reset very, very, very quickly, and they're excelling, for argument's sake. Whereas I've got other businesses that are still in survival mode. I've got other businesses that are quite nicely moving into reset and looking at things so they can get peak performance going forward. So it will be different. It might even be different by department. I'm speaking to different parts of Centrica, and there's different noises coming out of different parts of Centrica at the moment, depending on the org structures and everything and all this type of stuff that's going on at the moment, okay? So you might, if you're sitting there going, I don't know what phase we're in, it's worth thinking about. It's worth thinking, it's worth maybe speaking to your line manager about and gonna go, actually, where are we? Where are we? Are we just floating and trying to come out of survival? Are we consciously resetting? You know, I'm sure Pete can fill us in later today about, you know, I'm pretty sure that, you know, Pete went through survival quite quickly, and then, you know, from the conversations we've had, Pete, you know, into a nice reset zone. Okay, how can we do this going forward, and so on and so on and so on.